I am Aubrey Mitchell, 32 years old, and never expected betrayal would wear my mother's face. The celebration dinner for my return quickly turned into my execution as Mom clinked her glass and announced, I am giving this house to Rachel. Aubrey, you need to move out in 30 days. My sister smirked behind her wine glass while Dad studied his plate. My brother Jason looked everywhere but at me. They say blood is thicker than water, but apparently my blood family had been plotting to dilute mine all along. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if family drama gets your heart racing. Trust me, this story about how I fought back against my family's betrayal will make your jaw drop. Let's dive in. To understand why my mother's announcement felt like a knife to my heart, you need to know our history. I've always been the responsible one in the Mitchell family. After graduating with honors from business school, I landed a marketing executive position at Reynolds & Burke, one of the top firms in Chicago. My career took off while my younger sister Rachel bounced between community college programs and retail jobs, never committing to anything for more than a few months. Despite the distance that grew between us as adults, I remained committed to helping my family. When Dad lost his job 5 years ago, I stepped in to cover 3 months of mortgage payments. When Mom needed dental surgery insurance wouldn't cover, I paid the $8,500 bill without hesitation. The family home, a charming 4-bedroom Victorian in a historic neighborhood, meant everything to me. It represented stability and the dream my parents had built, even if our family relationships were complicated. Aubrey always comes through, Dad used to say with pride. But that praise came with expectations, while Rachel enjoyed freedom from responsibility. The favoritism started early. On my 10th birthday, Mom forgot to order a cake because she was busy planning Rachel's dance recital. When I graduated high school with honors, my parents missed the ceremony because Rachel had a minor fender bender without injuries that same morning. Small incidents accumulated like interest on an emotional debt that would never be repaid. 3 years ago, Rachel called me sobbing about being evicted from her apartment. Against my better judgment, I lent her $4,000 to cover back rent. I'll pay you back in 2 months, Obs, I promise, she said. The money disappeared, and so did my texts asking about repayment. When I finally confronted her at Thanksgiving, she burst into tears, and Mom scolded me for bullying my sister. 8 months ago, I made what now seems like a catastrophic decision. The lease ended on my downtown condo, and Mom suggested I move back home temporarily while looking for a new place. Plus, you can help with bills, she added casually. I agreed, thinking it would be for a few months at most. I contributed $1,500 monthly toward the mortgage and utilities, essentially paying rent while helping them financially. My brother Jason, 27, lived at home too, working as a physical therapist. He often seemed caught between loyalty to me and fear of displeasing our parents, especially Mom. We were close as kids, but in adulthood, he'd become increasingly withdrawn, especially when family conflicts arose. Just let it go, he'd whisper when Mom favored Rachel. It's not worth fighting about. My best friend Heather Williams saw through my family's dynamics immediately. They treat you like an ATM with emotions, she observed, after one particularly tense Sunday dinner. Heather had been my rock since college, offering her spare bedroom countless times when family tension became unbearable. My ex-boyfriend Daniel Hayes remained in my life as a friend, despite our breakup 2 years ago. He worked in finance and often advised me about helping my family financially. Set boundaries, he warned. Your generosity is becoming their expectation. I should have listened. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. Mom began asking detailed questions about my work schedule and salary. Rachel started visiting more frequently, spending hours with Mom behind closed doors. Dad became even quieter than usual, avoiding eye contact during our brief conversations. The atmosphere in the house changed, charged with unspoken tension. The night before that fateful dinner, I overheard Rachel on the phone in the backyard. She has no idea what's coming, she said, laughing. I assumed she was planning a surprise for someone. Never did I imagine I was the subject of her amusement, or that my own family was orchestrating my downfall. The silence following Mom's announcement stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. Silverware clattered against china as everyone pretended to eat. Finally, I found my voice. "Is this a joke?" I asked, looking from face to face. Mom smoothed her napkin. "It's been decided, Aubrey. Your sister needs stability for her future. You have a good job, you can afford your own place." I pushed back from the table. "I've been paying part of the mortgage for months. I've poured thousands into this house over the years." Rachel rolled her eyes. "Always about money with you. This house is our childhood home. I have emotional connections too." The dining room suddenly felt airless. I stumbled outside, gasping for breath on the porch swing where Dad used to read me stories. Minutes later, Mom followed. Her expression hardened into unfamiliar lines. "I never thought you'd succeed, you know," she said quietly. "Rachel was always the special one. Your achievements were unexpected." The casual cruelty of her words burned worse than the betrayal itself. "Why now? Why give her the house?" "She's family," Mom replied, as if I wasn't. "She needs it more." Inside, I found Rachel rummaging through my bedroom closet. "Just seeing what you'll leave behind," she said with a smirk. "I've been planning my redecorating for months." Months? The timeline hit me. "You've known about this for months?" Her smile confirmed what words didn't need to. "Better start packing, sis." I fled to Heather's apartment across town, mascara streaking down my face as I pounded on her door at 9 p.m. "They're kicking me out," I sobbed as Heather pulled me inside. "They're giving Rachel my house." "Your house?" Heather's confusion was justified. "I've been paying part of the mortgage. I've invested so much." I couldn't finish the sentence. After 3 cups of tea and 2 hours of circular conversation, Heather insisted I sleep in her guest room. "Tomorrow we'll figure this out," she promised. But tomorrow brought more shocks. My phone pinged with a notification from a storage facility across town. "Your unit is ready for access," it read. Confused, I called the number. "Yes, Miss Mitchell. Your family moved your belongings yesterday. They paid for 3 months up front." Yesterday, before the dinner, before the announcement. They had already packed my life away. At Heather's suggestion, I drove to the storage facility. There, neatly stacked, were boxes labeled Aubrey's books, Aubrey's clothes, Aubrey's memories. My life, compartmentalized and removed without my knowledge. As I stood staring at the boxes, my phone rang. Mrs. Thompson, our elderly neighbor who had known me since childhood, spoke in hurried whispers. "Aubrey, dear, something isn't right. I saw Rachel showing a man in a suit around the property yesterday. They were discussing property values and renovation costs." My stomach dropped. "A real estate agent?" "I think so. And Aubrey, she said something about how they'd finally get rid of the last pieces of evidence. I don't know what that means, but I'm worried for you." I thanked her and hung up, mind racing. Evidence? Of what? Desperate for answers, I drove back to the house to confront my father. I found him alone in the garage, organizing his tool collection with methodical precision. "Dad, why is this happening? I've helped this family for years." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Your mother makes these decisions. And you just go along with them? Even when they hurt me?" He arranged screwdrivers by size. "Sometimes it's easier." "Easier than what? Standing up for me?" My voice broke. "I'm your daughter too." He finally looked up, eyes hollow. "I'm sorry, Aubrey." Something in his emptiness frightened me more than Mom's cruelty or Rachel's smugness. Back at the house, I discovered all my banking mail had been removed from my desk drawer. My laptop was missing, though I'd left it charging in my room. Panic rising, I checked my phone banking app. My name had been removed from the family checking account where I'd been depositing my mortgage contributions. In the kitchen, I found an envelope addressed to me. Inside was a formal letter, typed and unsigned. "As of June 1st, Aubrey Mitchell no longer has financial interests or rights to the property at 1425 Elm Street. All previous financial contributions are considered gifts to the Mitchell family. The date on the letter was 2 months ago. As I stood frozen in the kitchen, Rachel's husband Eric entered. Unlike my sister, he seemed uncomfortable with the situation. Aubrey, he began, then lowered his voice. This wasn't right. The way they did this. Did you know? I demanded. He hesitated just long enough. I should go find Rachel. As he turned to leave, I noticed a legal document on the counter, a property transfer agreement with my mother's signature. The date of transfer was tomorrow. They had timed this dinner perfectly to ambush me. They've been planning this for months, I whispered to myself, the reality sinking in with nauseating clarity. My own family. The next morning, I woke on Heather's pull-out couch with swollen eyes and a clear mission. While emotional wounds festered, I needed practical action. I called Karen Martinez, a lawyer friend from my professional network who specialized in property law. They can't just take your equity, Karen said firmly after hearing my story. If you've been contributing to the mortgage, you have legal standing. Even without a formal agreement? I asked, hope flickering. Consistent payments create an implied contract. Gather every bank statement, every receipt, every text mentioning your financial contributions, Karen instructed. Meet me at my office at noon. For 3 hours, I searched through my email and banking records, documenting years of financial support to my family. A $7,200 transfer when the roof needed replacing. A $3,500 payment when the water heater burst during winter. Monthly mortgage contributions totaling over $12,000 just in the past 8 months. Karen reviewed my evidence, her expression hardening. This is more than enough to challenge the transfer. I'll prepare a legal notice immediately. What about my belongings? I asked. We'll include an emergency injunction to prevent them from disposing of your property. She looked up from her notes. Aubrey, brace yourself. Family legal battles get ugly. They started ugly, I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. That afternoon, I received a text from my brother Jason. Storage unit behind Dad's workbench. Key under blue paint can. Go when no one's home. The cryptic message puzzled me, but I trusted Jason more than the others. The next day, when I knew Mom would be at her book club and Rachel at yoga, I slipped into the garage. The key was exactly where Jason said, taped beneath a dusty paint can on Dad's workbench. The small storage unit contained a file box labeled Family Financials. Inside were documents that made my blood run cold. Credit card applications in my name I'd never signed. Loan documents with what appeared to be my forged signature. Bank statements showing withdrawals from accounts I didn't recognize. Identity theft. By my own family. My phone buzzed a text from Jason. Did you find it? Not safe to meet at home. Coffee shop on 5th in an hour? At the coffee shop, Jason slid into the booth looking haggard. I couldn't let them do this to you without fighting back, he said, voice barely above a whisper. How long have you known? I demanded. About the house? 2 months. About the rest, he gestured vaguely. It started with Mom taking out a credit card in your name 3 years ago. Then it snowballed. Why would she do this? Jason's expression darkened. Gambling. Online mostly, but sometimes casinos when she claims to be visiting Aunt Susan. She's in deep, Aubrey. Rachel knows and uses it to manipulate Mom. The revelation staggered me. Our practical, budget-conscious mother a gambling addict? Dad knows too, Jason continued. He's covered for her for years. And you? Why tell me now? He looked away. I was scared. Still am. But seeing what they did to you at dinner, he shook his head. I have copies of everything. Bank statements, credit applications, even recordings of Rachel talking about taking over the house. I reached for his hand. Thank you. Later that day, fortified by Jason's evidence and Karen's legal strategy, I returned to the house to collect more of my belongings. I found Rachel in my bedroom, trying on my clothes. Those are mine, I said from the doorway. She jumped, then regained her composure. Not for long. You know, I've already called the newspaper about taking over the family business. She meant the house, treating my life as if it were a corporate takeover. You won't get away with this, I said quietly. Rachel's laugh turned bitter. Already have, sis. Who do you think the family will believe? Perfect Rachel or workaholic Aubrey, who's clearly having a mental breakdown? Her eyes narrowed. Try to fight this, and I'll make sure everyone knows you're unstable. Her threat crystallized my resolve. This wasn't just about a house, it was about years of manipulation finally coming to light. The next day, Karen filed our legal challenge, including a temporary injunction preventing the property transfer. When the sheriff delivered the papers to my parents' house, my phone exploded with angry texts from Mom and tearful ones from Rachel. My boss Margaret called me into her office that afternoon. Your sister called, she said carefully. She claims you're experiencing mental health issues and stealing family property. My chest tightened. She's trying to discredit me. I can explain everything. Margaret's expression softened. I figured as much. Take whatever time you need to sort this out. Your job is secure. One small victory amid mounting battles. The temporary injunction was granted 3 days later. The house couldn't be transferred until ownership was legally determined. When I arrived at the courthouse with Karen, I found my family on the opposite side of the room, unified against me. Except for Jason, who stood uncertainly in the middle. This isn't over, Mom hissed as we passed each other. You're right about that, I replied, clutching my folder of evidence. It's just beginning. With the house transfer temporarily blocked, I devoted every free moment to understanding the full scope of my family's betrayal. Karen connected me with a forensic accountant who specialized in identity theft cases. This goes beyond the house, he explained, spreading financial documents across his desk. Someone has opened 3 credit cards and a personal loan in your name over the past 4 years. The total fraudulent debt exceeded $47,000. Each application had my forged signature, using my social security number and employment information. The loan application lists your mother's email for contact, he pointed out. Elementary mistake, but common when family members commit fraud. More disturbing was evidence that Rachel had gained access to my checking account. Siphoning small amounts, $50 here, $75 there over the past 2 years. Amounts small enough that I hadn't noticed amid my busy life, but totaling nearly $6,000. How did she access my account? I asked in disbelief. Most likely from mail stolen from your room or information stored on your home computer, he explained. The violation felt intimate and calculated. These weren't impulsive acts, but years of systematic exploitation. Armed with this information, I returned to my parents' house when I knew all 3 family members would be home. I needed answers directly from the source. We need to talk, I announced, placing financial records on the kitchen table, about the identity theft, the stolen funds, and the mortgage payments. Mom's face paled. Dad studied the floor. Rachel scoffed dramatically. You always were good at creating drama, Rachel said. I pointed to the documents. This isn't drama. It's fraud. Criminal fraud. Dad finally spoke. Aubrey, please. We can work this out privately. Like you worked out giving away the house I helped pay for? I countered. Like you worked out stealing my identity? Mom's composure cracked. We needed the money. Your father's medical bills? What medical bills? I interrupted. A heavy silence fell. Dad looked at Mom with an expression I couldn't interpret. Should I tell her or will you? I asked. Neither spoke, so I continued. Dad isn't sick, but someone needed a cover story for where all that money went. I turned to my mother. How long have you been gambling? The question landed like a grenade. Mom's denial came too quickly, too forcefully. Dad's resignation confirmed the truth. Rachel tried to redirect, but the evidence was irrefutable. After an hour of accusations, denials, and eventual confessions, I left with a clearer picture of our family dysfunction. Mom's gambling addiction had created financial holes she filled by exploiting my credit. Dad enabled her by maintaining silence. Rachel, discovering the scheme, used it as leverage to position herself as the favored child and ultimately secure the house. Back at Heather's apartment, I discovered a package waiting for me. Inside was a stack of my mother's journals dating back 5 years, with a note from Jason. Found these hidden in the attic. You deserve to know. The journals chronicled Mom's descent into gambling addiction, her growing resentment of my success, and most painfully, her explicit plans to use me financially while ensuring Rachel's future was secure. Aubrey is strong, one entry read. She doesn't need what Rachel does. Besides, she abandoned the family for her career. The house should go to someone who appreciates family. The written evidence of my mother's calculated betrayal brought me to my knees. I called Heather, sobbing too hard to form coherent sentences. "I'm coming over," she said immediately. That evening, as Heather helped me process the revelations, I received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Thompson, our elderly neighbor, arrived with a shoebox of photographs and letters. "Your mother and I were close once," she explained, settling onto Heather's couch. "But what she's doing to you is wrong. I thought you should know this isn't new behavior." The contents revealed a pattern stretching back decades. My mother had manipulated relatives for financial gain before, including her own parents. Letters documented family conflicts eerily similar to my current situation. "Your grandmother disinherited her eventually," Mrs. Thompson said gently. "Patricia never forgave her." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because history is repeating itself," she replied. "And because I watched you grow up, always trying to earn love that shouldn't need earning." Her kindness nearly broke me again. Later that night, as I sorted through decades of family history, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Dad. Aubrey. His voice sounded older, weaker. "There's something you need to know. About your mother. About why she's always favored Rachel." "I'm listening," I said, bracing myself for more pain. "When your mother was pregnant with you, she wanted an abortion. I convinced her to continue the pregnancy." His voice cracked. "She's never forgiven either of us." The revelation struck like physical pain. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I'm tired of secrets," he sighed. "And because I've failed you repeatedly. Starting now, I'm going to try to make it right." The next day, Rachel launched her counteroffensive. Friends and family members called, concerned about my mental health crisis. Colleagues mentioned rumors about my family estrangement. A distant cousin even spotted Rachel at church, tearfully accepting consolation for her troubled sister. "She's trying to isolate you," Karen warned. Standard tactic in these situations. For a moment, facing the coordinated attack on my reputation, I considered giving up. The emotional cost seemed too high, the betrayal too complete. Then Jason called with news that reignited my determination. "Rachel isn't just planning to take the house," he said urgently. "She's already talked to a developer about selling the property for a multi-unit complex. Mom knows. They're planning to split the money. The family home, the source of so many memories despite the dysfunction, would be demolished. The final erasure of my place in the family." "No," I said, resolve hardening. "I won't let that happen." The time for defensive reactions had passed. With my support team assembled, Karen handling legal matters, Heather providing emotional support, Jason supplying inside information, and Mrs. Thompson offering historical context, I developed a comprehensive plan to reclaim what was rightfully mine. "We need to approach this like a military campaign," Karen advised during our strategy session at her office. "Multiple fronts, coordinated timing, clear objectives." Our legal strategy centered on 3 core elements: documenting my financial contributions to the house, addressing the identity theft and fraud, and challenging the property transfer as part of a broader pattern of exploitation. "The injunction buys us time," Karen explained, "but we need overwhelming evidence for the full hearing." Heather, with her organizational skills, created a detailed timeline tracking every betrayal, financial contribution, and significant family event over the past decade. The visual representation of my systematic exploitation strengthened my resolve. "Your story needs to be airtight," she insisted. No gaps or inconsistencies they can exploit. An unexpected ally emerged when I reconnected with Daniel, my ex-boyfriend who worked in banking. Though our romantic relationship had ended, our friendship remained intact. I can help trace the money, he offered after hearing my situation. Banking leaves digital footprints. With Daniel's expertise, we discovered Mom had transferred funds from the fraudulent accounts to offshore gambling sites. More damning, Rachel had received regular payments from Mom's personal account, essentially being paid to participate in the scheme. The evidence mounted daily. I documented everything meticulously, building a case that would be impossible to dismiss. 2 weeks into our campaign, I received a text from an unknown number. Lakeside Cafe, 4 p.m. tomorrow. Come alone. Eric, Rachel's husband. I debated ignoring the message, suspecting a trap, but curiosity won. I arrived at the cafe early, choosing a table with clear sightlines to all entrances. Eric appeared precisely at 4, looking nervously over his shoulder. Rachel doesn't know I'm here, he began, fidgeting with his wedding ring. Why are you here, Eric? I asked cautiously. Because this has gone too far. He slid a folder across the table. Rachel isn't just after the house. He struggled visibly. She's having an affair with her personal trainer. They're planning to sell the house and move to Florida together. The revelation stunned me. Does she know you know? No. But I found their messages. His expression hardened. She's using all of you. Your mother, your father, me. The house is just another stepping stone. The folder contained screenshots of text messages between Rachel and her trainer, explicitly discussing their plan to cash in on the house and leave town, leaving Eric behind just as they'd planned to discard me. Why show me this? I asked. Because it's wrong, he said simply. And because I'm filing for divorce next week. This new information changed everything. Rachel wasn't fighting for family legacy or emotional connection to the house. She wanted a quick payday before abandoning everyone, including her husband. The next day, my professional life became the newest battleground. A client called to express concern about my unstable personal situation. Another mentioned hearing rumors about my financial improprieties. I traced the source to Rachel, who had been systematically contacting my professional network, spreading doubt about my stability and integrity. Margaret, my boss, called me into her office. This has gone beyond a family dispute, she said gravely. They're attacking your livelihood. Instead of retreating, I decided to fight fire with fire. I had learned something from my mother and sister, after all, how to be strategically ruthless when necessary. I crafted careful messages to key family friends, sharing selective evidence of Mom's gambling addiction and Rachel's betrayal of Eric. I contacted the mortgage company with documentation of my payments. I even anonymously tipped off Rachel's workplace about her extended absences, which I knew from Jason were being covered up by falsified doctor's notes. Are you sure about this approach? Heather asked when I outlined my counteroffensive. It seems like you're using their tactics. The difference is, I'm telling the truth, I replied, and I'm not doing it for personal gain, I'm defending myself. The most difficult decision involved my father. After his confession about my mother's initial rejection of her pregnancy with me, he had become increasingly communicative, even apologetic. During a private lunch, he admitted to enabling decades of dysfunctional behavior. I thought keeping peace was being a good husband, a good father, he confessed. Instead, I just allowed everyone to be hurt differently. I need you to make a choice, Dad, I said firmly, publicly. Are you with Mom and Rachel, or will you stand with me and Jason? He stared at his untouched sandwich. I don't know if I'm strong enough to choose. Then you're choosing them by default, I replied, gathering my purse. Again. As I stood to leave, he reached for my hand. Wait. What if there was another way? Something that could resolve this without destroying what's left of our family? I'm listening, I said, though skepticism colored my voice. The house isn't just in your mother's name, he revealed. It's in both our names. I've never asserted my rights because, well, you know why. But legally, I have equal say. This revelation opened a new strategic avenue. If Dad formally opposed the transfer, the legal battle would shift dramatically in my favor. Are you willing to do that? I asked. Mom will see it as the ultimate betrayal. Maybe it's time I stopped worrying about betraying her, he said quietly, and started worrying about how I've betrayed my children. That evening, I received another unexpected call, Rachel's personal trainer, the man she'd been having an affair with. Rachel promised me half the proceeds from selling the house, he explained. Now she's saying it's tied up in legal issues because of you. That's partially true, I acknowledged. Look, I don't want trouble, he continued, but she told me some things about setting you up, making you look unstable, even planting something in your desk at work. Planting what? I asked sharply. I don't know details, but she said it would end your career if found. The warning sent me rushing to my office that night. In my desk drawer, I found a small bag of white powder and several unauthorized prescription bottles with my name forged on the labels. The setup was amateur but potentially devastating. I carefully documented everything with photos before removing the planted items. The next morning, I requested security footage from the office manager, claiming I believed my desk had been tampered with. The footage clearly showed Rachel using a visitor's pass to enter after hours, heading directly to my desk. Got you, I whispered to the frozen image of my sister on the screen. The final piece of my counter strategy fell into place when Jason discovered Rachel had recorded our mother admitting to the fraudulent loans and identity theft. Rachel had been keeping the recording as insurance, never imagining Jason would find it and bring it to me. She keeps it on her cloud account, Jason explained, forwarding me the audio file. Password was her birth year, not exactly Fort Knox security. In the recording, Mom explicitly acknowledged using my identity because Aubrey owes us for all we've done and admitted planning to transfer the house to Rachel so we can access the equity before Aubrey realizes what's happening. With this final piece of evidence, my counter-offensive was ready. I had transformed from victim to strategist, using every resource and ally available. Tomorrow, I told Karen, we end this. The preliminary court hearing exceeded my expectations. The judge, a stern woman with penetrating eyes, reviewed our evidence of financial contributions, identity theft, and the coordinated plan to transfer the house fraudulently. The court grants temporary shared ownership pending full resolution, she announced. No sale or transfer may proceed without all parties' consent. Karen squeezed my hand under the table. First step, she whispered. Across the courtroom, Mom sat ashen-faced beside Rachel, whose usual smugness had evaporated. Dad sat slightly apart, his testimony about my financial contributions having visibly shocked my mother and sister. Outside the courthouse, Mom approached me hesitantly. Perhaps we've all been hasty, she suggested, her voice carefully modulated. Families shouldn't fight like this. Families shouldn't steal from each other either, I replied. People make mistakes, Aubrey, she pressed. What if we found a compromise? Shared ownership, perhaps? Her sudden reasonableness raised immediate suspicions. But part of me, the daughter who had always sought her approval, wanted to believe reconciliation was possible. Over the next few days, a tentative truce formed. Mom called daily, her voice warm with concerned questions about my well-being. Rachel texted apologies and invitations to lunch to work things out like sisters. Dad expressed relief that the family might heal after all. Even Jason seemed encouraged. Maybe they finally realized they went too far, he suggested during our weekly coffee meeting. Only Heather remained skeptical. Convenient timing, she observed, right after they lost in court. Despite my lingering doubts, I cautiously engaged with my family's reconciliation efforts. Mom invited me to Sunday dinner, promising a fresh start. I accepted, bringing a bottle of wine as a peace offering. The evening progressed with surface-level pleasantness. Mom praised my recent work promotion. Dad reminisced about teaching me to ride a bike. Rachel showed photos from her recent vacation, carefully avoiding mention of her personal trainer. We've been thinking, Mom announced over dessert. The house has caused so much pain. What if we sold it and split the proceeds equally? A clean break for everyone. The proposal seemed reasonable, perhaps too reasonable. I'll think about it, I hedged. Later that night, I received a call from Eric. Be careful, he warned. Rachel's been meeting with your mother and some man in a suit. They seemed very pleased with themselves after you left dinner. The next morning, Karen called with alarming news. Someone's contesting our evidence, she reported, claiming your bank statements were altered and your signatures on mortgage contribution checks were forged. That's absurd, I protested. Who's making these claims? Your brother Jason, she replied grimly. He filed an affidavit this morning. The betrayal hit like physical pain. Jason, my confidant, my ally, had been playing both sides all along. Our strategy sessions, the evidence he'd provided, our heartfelt conversations about family loyalty, all apparently part of an elaborate setup. I called him immediately. When he answered, background noise suggested he wasn't alone. How could you? I demanded. Aubrey, it's complicated, he began, voice strained. Mom needed, I interrupted bitterly. It's always about what Mom needs, isn't it? Never about what's right. I'm sorry, he whispered before hanging up. The family reconciliation had been a calculated distraction while they prepared their counterattack. While I'd cautiously lowered my guard, they'd been constructing their next betrayal. The setback continued when I arrived at work to find my office door sealed. Margaret met me in the hallway, her expression grave. Someone reported narcotics in your desk, she explained. Security did a sweep and found residue. HR protocol requires administrative leave during investigation. The planted drugs I'd removed had left traces enough for a positive test, not enough for criminal charges, but sufficient to cast professional doubt. This isn't coincidence, I told Margaret. My sister was caught on security cameras accessing my desk after hours. Margaret's eyes widened. Get me that footage. Immediately. But when we checked with security, the footage from that night had been deleted during routine maintenance. With my career under attack and my legal case compromised, I returned to Heather's apartment feeling defeated. The coordinated assault on my life seemed overwhelming. I can't fight all of them, I admitted, collapsing onto her couch. They're always one step ahead. Heather sat beside me, uncharacteristically quiet. Finally, she spoke. You're approaching this wrong. You're fighting them individually. Mom, Rachel, Jason. But they're not individuals to you. They're a concept. Family. What's your point? Stop fighting for the house, Aubrey, she said firmly. Fight for yourself. The house is just a building. Your self-respect, your future, that's what matters. But they'll win, I protested. Only if winning means getting the house, she countered. Redefine winning. That night, I received a text from an unfamiliar number. Not all allies have revealed themselves. Garden shed tomorrow, 3 p.m. The cryptic message perplexed me, but desperation outweighed caution. The following afternoon, I approached our family's garden shed with apprehension. Inside, I found Samuel Rivera, our family's longtime gardener. At 72, he had tended our property for decades, a quiet presence through family celebrations and conflicts alike. I hear things, Miss Aubrey, he said without preamble. People talk like I'm invisible because I'm just the gardener. But I listen. From his weathered knapsack, he produced a small tape recorder. Been recording the suspicious conversations in the garden for months. Thought it might help someone someday. The recordings captured Rachel and Mom discussing their plans to force me out. Jason's reluctant agreement to betray my trust, and most significantly, detailed conversations about using my identity for financial gain. Why are you helping me? I asked. Samuel's eyes crinkled. I watched you grow up. Always kind to me, even as a little girl. Remembered my birthday when your family forgot. People who treat the invisible with dignity deserve loyalty. His simple statement restored something I had lost through months of betrayal, faith that goodness still existed. With renewed determination and Samuel's evidence, I returned to Karen's office to rebuild our strategy. The family reconciliation facade had shattered, but now I understood their playbook more clearly. That evening, my professional mentor William Anderson called unexpectedly. "Heard about your situation at work," he said. "Suspicious timing, given your family legal battle." I explained the circumstances, expecting sympathy, but not action. Instead, he offered something more valuable. "I'm launching a new marketing consultancy next month," he revealed. "I need a partner with exactly your skills. Position comes with equity stake from day one." "Are you offering me a job?" I asked, stunned. "I'm offering you an escape route," he clarified, "and a future not tied to people who don't deserve you." For the first time in months, I glimpsed a path forward that didn't depend on winning against my family, but on building something new without them. The morning after William's job offer, Dad called requesting to meet at a neutral location. We settled on a quiet diner across town, where he arrived looking haggard and conflicted. "There's something you need to know," he began after ordering coffee. "About my illness." "Your illness?" I repeated, confused. "The medical bills your mother mentioned." He stared into his untouched coffee. "There is no illness, Aubrey. That was the excuse for where the money went." Though Jason had already revealed Mom's gambling, hearing Dad's direct confirmation still stung. Why maintain the lie? It seemed kinder than the truth. He paused, gathering courage. "But there's more. Rachel, she never intended to keep the house." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "She has plans, blueprints. The house would be demolished within months of transfer. The developers already secured permits." Despite already knowing this from Jason, the confirmation from Dad landed differently. "Does Mom know?" "She not only knows it was her idea." His voice cracked. "The gambling debts are worse than anyone realizes. The property development deal would clear them and leave enough for your mother and Rachel to relocate. And you? Where would you go?" He looked up, eyes hollow. "That's the thing. There wasn't a place for me in their plans either." The revelation struck me speechless. Even Dad, who had enabled Mom for decades, was ultimately disposable in their scheme. "When did you learn this?" I finally asked. "Last week. Found the finalized contracts in Rachel's car when I was helping her move boxes." I studied him, searching for deception. "Why tell me now?" "Because I realized something." He straightened slightly. "I've been afraid of your mother my entire adult life. Afraid of her anger, her disapproval. I let that fear destroy my relationship with you. I can't change the past, but I can stop being complicit now." His confession felt genuine, but experience had taught me caution. "I want to believe you." "You don't have to," he replied. "Just verify what I've told you, then decide." After our meeting, I drove directly to the county records office. The property development application was public record, filed 2 months earlier under a corporate entity. The contact name listed was indeed the personal trainer Rachel had been seeing. The demolition permit had been pre-approved, scheduled to begin 30 days after property transfer. My childhood home, the setting for both painful and precious memories, would have been reduced to rubble before the first mortgage payment was due. That evening, I received a call from my mother. Her voice held an unusual edge of panic. "Aubrey, please come home. Your father's had some kind of breakdown. He's making wild accusations, threatening to expose family matters." The transparent manipulation might have worked months ago. Now, it merely confirmed Dad's truthfulness. "I'm busy tonight," I replied calmly. "Perhaps tomorrow." "This is an emergency," she insisted. "Then call 911, I suggested before hanging up. Minutes later, Rachel called. "Mom's right. Dad's lost it. He's saying terrible things about us. You need to help calm him down." "Actually, I believe him," I said simply. A beat of silence. "You've always been so gullible," she finally said, dropping the concerned sister act. "Fine. You two deserve each other. The rest of us are moving forward." "The rest? Who exactly is left on your side, Rachel?" "Jason's testimony is compromised now that we have Samuel's recordings. Eric knows about your affair." Even the developer is getting nervous about potential legal complications. Another pause. How do you know about— I know everything, I interrupted, the statement more confident than factual. And soon, everyone else will too. After ending the call, I sat in the growing darkness of Heather's apartment, processing the cascade of revelations. The complete scope of betrayal had finally emerged, not just the theft of my home and identity, but the planned erasure of our family's physical history. My phone lit up with notifications, increasingly frantic messages from Mom and Rachel, attempting to reestablish control through a combination of threats and false reconciliation offers. I silenced the notifications without reading further. Heather returned from her evening shift at the hospital to find me sitting in darkness. "Bad day?" she asked, flipping on lights. "Clarifying day," I corrected. "I finally see everything clearly." I explained Dad's revelation, the demolition plans, and my conversation with Mom and Rachel. "So what now?" Heather asked. "Now I stop fighting to save a family that doesn't exist," I answered, "and start building a life they can't touch." The next morning, I met with Karen to revise our legal strategy. "I don't care about keeping the house anymore," I explained. "I want financial restitution for my contributions, criminal charges for the identity theft, and protection from future exploitation." "That's actually a stronger case," Karen noted. "Less emotional, more straightforward." I then met with Margaret, presenting Samuel's recordings that corroborated my claims about Rachel planting evidence. The HR investigation was redirected toward building security procedures and how an unauthorized visitor had accessed employee areas after hours. William and I finalized details of my new position with a start date the following month. The equity stake would provide financial independence far beyond what I might have recovered from the house. As these pieces of my new life fell into place, one loose end remained: Jason. Despite his betrayal, I needed to understand his motivations. We met at the coffee shop that had once been our safe space for planning our legal defense. "Why?" I asked simply when he slid into the booth. "Mom threatened to cut me off completely," he admitted, unable to meet my eyes. "My student loans, my car payments, she's been covering them because the physical therapy practice isn't profitable yet. So you chose financial security over me." "I chose survival," he countered weakly. "And I thought if I stayed close to them, I could minimize the damage. By feeding them our legal strategy? By undermining my evidence?" "I never gave them anything substantial," he protested. "I pretended to help them while warning you when I could." His justifications rang hollow. Yet I recognized the pattern, the same desperate need for parental approval that had driven my own decisions for years. "I'm not angry anymore," I realized aloud. "Just sad for all of us. We never learned how to love each other properly." As I gathered my purse to leave, Jason grabbed my wrist. "Wait." I recorded my conversations with Mom and Rachel too. "Everything they asked me to do against you. I can't undo my betrayal, but I can help make it right." His offer came too late to salvage our relationship, but could strengthen my legal position. "Give the recordings to Karen," I said, sliding her business card across the table. That night, I sat alone on Heather's balcony, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. For the first time since that fateful dinner, I felt a profound sense of peace. Not because I had won the legal battle continued, but because I had finally stopped playing a rigged game. My phone rang. "Dad again." "I've decided," he said without preamble. "I'm testifying against your mother and Rachel. About everything: the gambling, the fraud, the demolition plans. Karen already has my statement." His choice represented the first truly paternal act I could remember. "That must have been difficult." "Easiest decision I've ever made," he countered. "Just 30 years too late." After we hung up, I turned my phone off entirely. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight belonged to me alone, the first night of my self-determined future. With Dad's testimony secured, Samuel's recordings authenticated, and Jason's additional evidence, our legal position strengthened dramatically. Karen developed what she called our comprehensive recovery strategy, a multi-pronged approach, addressing both the house situation and the broader pattern of exploitation. "We're not just fighting for assets," she explained during our strategy session. "We're establishing consequences for years of manipulation." The plan had three components: legal, financial, and social. Each required precise timing and coordination among our allies. For the legal component, Karen filed expanded charges detailing the identity theft, fraud, and financial exploitation. Dad's testimony proved crucial, establishing a pattern of behavior spanning decades. The court appointed a forensic accountant to trace the misappropriated funds, revealing the full extent of Mom's gambling losses and Rachel's complicity. "Your mother lost over $300,000 in the past 5 years alone," the accountant reported during our consultation, "much of it from fraudulent accounts in your name." The financial consequences mounted quickly. Credit agencies froze the fraudulent accounts, debt collectors pursued Mom directly, and the gambling establishments, fearful of facilitating fraud, banned her from their platforms and premises. Rachel faced her own financial reckoning when Eric filed for divorce, citing her infidelity and financial misconduct. The personal trainer, seeing his payday evaporating amid legal complications, abruptly ended their relationship and withdrew from the property development deal. "He said it wasn't worth the drama," Jason reported with grim satisfaction. Rachel's furious. The social component unfolded more gradually but with equal impact. I didn't need to spread rumors or make accusations. The legal proceedings became a matter of public record, accessible to anyone in our community who cared to look. Friends and family members who had initially believed Rachel's portrayal of me as unstable gradually realized they'd been manipulated. Mrs. Thompson, respected in our community, quietly corrected misinformation when she encountered it. "I simply tell people to check the court records," she told me during one of our regular tea meetings. "Truth speaks for itself." William accelerated my professional transition, announcing my partnership in his new venture earlier than planned. The press release highlighted my expertise and integrity, effectively countering any lingering damage to my reputation. As these elements converged, Mom and Rachel found themselves increasingly isolated. Their financial resources dwindled, legal troubles multiplied, and social support evaporated. What had begun as their coordinated attack on me had transformed into a comprehensive accounting of years of dysfunction. Yet executing this strategy brought less satisfaction than I'd anticipated. Watching my family disintegrate, even after their betrayal, produced complex emotions. During one particularly difficult day, I found myself parked outside our family home, observing from a distance as Mom frantically packed boxes. "You don't owe them forgiveness," Heather reminded me that evening, "but you do owe yourself closure." Seeking that closure, I arranged a final family meeting at a neutral location, a private room at a local restaurant. To my surprise, everyone agreed to attend: Mom, Dad, Rachel, and Jason. The atmosphere as we gathered was tense but subdued. Mom looked older, the confident manipulator replaced by someone facing consequences perhaps for the first time. Rachel's usual arrogance had given way to nervous vigilance. Jason appeared simply exhausted, while Dad maintained a quiet dignity I'd never seen before. "Thank you for coming," I began. "I wanted us to meet one last time before the final court date." "To gloat?" Rachel challenged, though her voice lacked conviction. "To understand," I corrected. "We're here because of choices we all made, yours to betray me, mine to fight back. But those choices came from somewhere deeper. I need to understand why our family became what it is." What followed was the most honest conversation we'd ever had as a family. Mom reluctantly acknowledged her resentment of my independence and success. Rachel admitted envying my relationship with Dad, despite her favored status with Mom. Jason confessed to perpetual fear of choosing sides. Dad expressed profound regret at enabling destructive patterns for decades. "I wanted to be the perfect daughter," I admitted. "But perfect wasn't enough, because the problem wasn't my performance. It was that you needed someone to control, Mom. And I wouldn't be controlled." The 3-hour conversation didn't produce reconciliation. Too much damage had been done for that, but it provided something equally valuable: clarity. As we prepared to leave, I presented each family member with an envelope. "These are my terms for moving forward," I explained. "They're non-negotiable." Mom would enter gambling addiction treatment and financial counseling. Rachel would repay the stolen funds according to a structured payment plan. Jason would complete therapy, addressing his conflict avoidance. Dad, already taking positive steps, would continue his independence from Mom's influence. "And if we refuse?" Mom asked, clutching her unopened envelope. "Then, the criminal charges proceed as planned," I replied calmly. "This isn't blackmail. It's an alternative path with actual healing instead of punishment. Your choice." 2 days later, I received a conference call from Karen and the district attorney. Mom had agreed to addiction treatment in lieu of prosecution. Rachel had signed the repayment agreement. The house would be sold, with proceeds divided proportionally according to documented contributions. "Congratulations," Karen said. "You've won." But victory felt different than I'd imagined. Not triumphant or vindicative, but quietly resolute, the satisfaction of finally establishing boundaries that should have existed all along. The final piece fell into place during a community fundraiser I'd helped organize through William's new company. As I mingled with colleagues and clients, I spotted Rachel across the room, attempting to network with local business leaders. Our eyes met briefly. Without hostility or drama, I simply turned away, continuing my conversation with the hospital administrator about our marketing partnership. "Isn't that your sister?" my companion asked, noticing the interaction. "Yes," I replied. "We're not close." The simplicity of that statement, acknowledging family connection without emotional entanglement, felt like the truest victory of all. Rachel no longer had power over my emotions or future. Later that evening, William introduced me as his business partner to the assembled crowd. The applause felt like validation, not just of my professional value, but of the new life I was creating, one built on genuine relationships and mutual respect rather than obligation and manipulation. "To new beginnings," William toasted afterward. Indeed, new beginnings built on hard-won wisdom. 6 months after that fateful family dinner, I stood on the front porch of our family home for the last time. The sale had finally closed, with proceeds distributed according to the court's determination of our respective contributions. My share, substantially larger than my mother had anticipated, provided the seed funding for my next venture. The house looked smaller somehow, less imposing than in my memories. The grand Victorian that had dominated my childhood now seemed simply a structure of wood and stone, its power over me finally broken. Dad joined me on the porch, hands in his pockets. Strange to say goodbye after all these years. "It's just a house," I replied, surprising myself with how true that felt. The memories, good and bad, we carry with us. In the months since our confrontation, my family had undergone significant transitions. Mom had completed inpatient treatment for gambling addiction and now attended regular support meetings. While our relationship remained distant, her acknowledgement of her behavior represented progress neither of us had thought possible. Rachel, facing financial ruin after Eric's divorce filing, had moved to another state for a fresh start. Our communication was limited to formal emails regarding her repayment schedule, which she maintained with surprising consistency. Perhaps facing consequences had initiated her own growth process. Jason and I had cautiously rebuilt some semblance of a relationship, beginning with his full confession about his betrayal, and continuing through monthly coffee meetings where we established healthier boundaries. Trust would take longer, but the foundation seemed solid. Most dramatic was Dad's transformation. After decades of passive compliance, he had filed for separation from Mom and moved into a small apartment near his favorite fishing spot. The quiet dignity he'd found during the family's implosion had developed into genuine independence. "I keep expecting to feel guilty," he confessed during one of our weekly lunches. "But mostly, I feel relieved." My own life had transformed equally dramatically. The partnership with William flourished, our marketing consultancy securing major clients within the first quarter. Heather, after providing sanctuary during my darkest moments, remained my closest friend and had recently become my neighbor in the riverside apartment complex I now called home. Even more surprising was the tentative romance developing between Daniel and me. After his invaluable help tracing the financial fraud, our friendship had deepened into something neither of us had anticipated. We proceeded cautiously, both aware of the significance of building a relationship based on mutual respect rather than need or obligation. As Dad and I performed our final walkthrough of the empty house, he paused in what had been my childhood bedroom. "I was a coward for so long," he said quietly. "Afraid of standing up to your mother, afraid of losing Rachel's affection, afraid even of your independence. I'm sorry, Aubrey. We were all trapped in patterns we didn't create," I replied. "What matters is breaking them now." Outside, the new owners waited respectfully, a young family with two small daughters. The mother smiled shyly as we emerged. "We'll take good care of it," she promised. "Make it yours," I encouraged. "Create something new here." That evening, I hosted a small gathering at my apartment, not a housewarming so much as a life-warming. Heather brought her famous lasagna. Daniel selected perfect wines. William and his husband contributed gourmet desserts, and even Mrs. Thompson attended with her legendary apple pie. To chosen family, I toasted, raising my glass to these people who had demonstrated the meaning of genuine support. Later, as guests departed, I found myself alone on my balcony overlooking the river. The moon traced silver patterns on the water, constantly changing yet somehow constant like life itself. My phone chimed with a text from Karen. "Final paperwork filed today. Case officially closed." The notification that would have meant everything 6 months earlier now felt simply like administrative confirmation of a journey already completed. The legal victory mattered less than the personal transformation it had catalyzed. Therapy had helped me recognize that my drive for achievement had partly been an attempt to earn the unconditional love that should have been freely given. Understanding that pattern allowed me to make healthier choices about my career, relationships, and self-worth. Success is the best revenge wasn't quite right. Building a meaningful life was its own reward, independent of what those who had hurt me might experience or understand. In the months ahead, I would launch new marketing campaigns, explore my relationship with Daniel, strengthen friendships, and perhaps even cautiously rebuild connections with family members showing genuine change. The path forward wasn't clearly marked, but for the first time, it was truly mine to determine. The journey from that devastating family dinner to this moment of peaceful resolution had cost me a house, but given me something far more valuable myself, whole and unburdened by toxic expectations. As I prepared for bed in my new home, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman, looking back, seemed both familiar and new, stronger at the broken places, as Hemingway might say. The pain hadn't disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into wisdom. What has your family taught you about boundaries and self-worth? Have you ever had to choose between family obligations and your own well-being? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own health and happiness. Thank you for joining me on this healing journey, and remember, sometimes the family we choose becomes our greatest strength. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next story.